point as well, or just on?
They already are. I believe they already are, but I'll check again. Wouldn't put it past me to. Oops. Yeah, I'll take care of that right now. It's there.
You.
So good morning to the jail. Is there somebody there I can confirm some holds with before we get started?
Good morning, Your Honor. We've got some officers walking in and out. I don't know. Excuse me, sir. I think the judge wants to confirm some holds.
Go ahead, Your Honor.
Okay, I show that we have a hold for Lucero Araujo,
Correct.
and then also for Jacob Ruiz,
That's correct, Your Honor.
and then finally Jamie Davis.
Yes, Your Honor, there was one additional hold, a APO hold for Oscar Angulo Hakari, second on the felonies list.
And I think I saw that one too. I just was looking at this screening thing. Let me double check on that one too. You said on Angulo Hakari?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what type of hold was that again?
It was an adult probation hold.
Okay, thanks. Great, thank you. Yeah, I did note that, yeah. Great.
Sorry, Judge. Other than Angulo, what was the other hold?
That one I believe was adult probation as well.
What was the individual?
Yeah, for Oscar, I think it's Angulo Hakari.
Okay, that's the only one.
Well, there were some other ones we had talked about. There were some additional ones for misdemeanors, I think.
Okay, not my concern. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Renee Lucero.
Okay, we show your last name. Is your full last name Lucero, or do you have another surname?
Yeah, Lucero Araujo.
Okay, great. All right, so Mr. Lucero Araujo, you're here today on what's called an initial appearance. You're currently facing an updated charge of assault, which is a misdemeanor offense. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of the paperwork for today, it does appear that there's already a probation hold that's on your case right now. So give me one moment to pull up the file here in the, oops. Okay. All right. So because there's a hold on you right now as to this particular charge, so that you're able to get time credit as to this charge, the court is going to institute a nominal bond in the amount of $500 cash or secured with some conditions of release if bond is posted and any holds are released. That would be no alcohol or illegal drugs, no acts of domestic violence, no firearms or weapons. Because the court is setting bond today, the court is going to technically appoint counsel for you, and that is going to be Anna Dennis. You have an arraignment on this updated assault charge tomorrow, January 24th, 1:00 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. So that's January 24th, 1:00 p.m. at the Justice Court for the arraignment. Any questions, sir, at this time?
Yeah. So tomorrow I also have court in Superior, and would that affect it or
You know what time that is?
I think it's like at 1:30.
Yeah. Do we have, is there anybody there who can confirm that date? Otherwise, I think would we be able to get another arraignment date potentially? Okay. I don't know if we have a choice. I mean, if we have another Superior Court hearing, but I don't still know if that hearing actually exists. I mean, the probation hold, I would imagine, is going to hold the defendant in custody for longer than Monday. So I think, I'm sorry.
For tomorrow, tomorrow at 1:30.
Yeah, can we get another arraignment date then? Yeah. Let us know about that court hearing, Mr. Lucero. I hope next
Sir.
court date's actually going to be January 27. So the following Monday at 1:00 p.m. for arraignment on this charge at the Justice Court. Okay. Any other questions at this time?
No, sir.
All right, you're excused. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I accidentally sent one over to you. Yeah, I'm just going to open it back up from here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Anthony Perdon.
Mr. Fernando, you're here today, having been picked up under a warrant for a prior offense in March 2024 for resisting arrest, which is a misdemeanor offense. In general, you do have a right to remain silent as to any pending charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So, Mr. Perdon, if we had you released on today's date, would you be able to make your next court date without us keeping you incarcerated?
Yes, sir.
And do you promise to the court that you'll do that?
Yes, sir, I promise.
I don't see any other holds or anything for you. So what the court's going to go ahead and do at this time, the court's going to order that you be released on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be what's called an arraignment, February 24, 2025, 8:30 a.m. with Judge Cornejo at the Justice Court. Make sure that you appear at that hearing. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Court will further order that any prior release conditions as to this pending charge are affirmed. Any questions before we conclude today?
Thank you.
Your Honor, what was that date again?
February 24th at 8:30.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for the next defendant, it does not appear that we have any Spanish-speaking individuals, so any interpreter who's on the line may be excused with the court's thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Interpreter is disconnecting.
All right, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Jeffrey Ryan Gainer, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Gaynor. We're here today to conduct a review of your pending circumstances. The court recognizes that there's a Cochise County matter that's pending. And so the court will just inform you right now that there's a review hearing set. There's a review hearing set in this court, February 24th, 2025. That'll be at 9:00 a.m. That's in the event that you're still incarcerated. If you're not incarcerated, that hearing is going to be vacated. Do you have any questions at this time?
I just want to make sure I'll be released on the 27th here, sir, for probation. I just want to make sure I have a ROR on that and I don't have a bond.
That I'm,
That
not aware of. If there have been separate arrangements or separate orders in order to have you released on any pending charges here, I don't have that information at the present time. If you've been notified that that's going to happen, I don't have any reason to believe that that's not going to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they held me on a $15,000 bond when I came in here for your case here out of Cochise. So I just want to make sure I don't have a $15,000 bond coming the 27th next week, holding me up.
Well, the prior release conditions indicated from December of 2024 indicated that bond remained in the amount of $15,000, but did a subsequent hearing happen after that?
No, sir, I haven't. This is the first hearing I've had since then.
Okay.
And that's why I'm asking for a modification to make sure I have an ROR so I'm not held up on my probation on the 27th.
Okay. The court's going to deny that request at this time. If you have stated counsel, go ahead and confer with counsel about getting bond reduced. These hearings are just review hearings. They're not bond reduction hearings. And so I can't assist you in that manner today. Do you have any other questions at this time?
No, I just need to figure out how to get a hold of my lawyer while I'm here so we can take care of those issues.
Okay, there is, and counsel who's seated next to the defendant, if you want to provide any brief feedback, I'd allow you to go on mute for a moment, and provide that if there's any input that you want to provide. So I'll go ahead and let you do that now. Okay, that might be helpful.
I think we're all set, Judge.
Okay, we're going to put the contact information for the Pima County, Cochise County on the documentation too, so you'll have that, sir, as well. So with that, we do need to proceed to our next case. Thank you for appearing today. See you back on February 24th.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Yes, now we held another 30 days.
It must be coming to get you more then.
All right.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Luis Fernando Grijalva.
Good morning. We're here today. Excuse me. We're going to seeing you today for what's called a review hearing to review your current incarceration at the jail pending transport to, looks like, Santa Cruz County. Court's just going to inform you on today's date that the next review hearing to be set in your case is February 24th, 2025, 9:00 a.m. And that's for a review hearing with this court. In the event that you are ultimately transported back to Santa Cruz County to have those charges resolved, then that hearing on February 24th will be vacated here. Any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, then you're excused. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Jacob Allen Reese.
You're here today. Looks like you're picked up on a warrant for some prior charges out of Marana Municipal Court, rising from 2023 and 2024, shoplifting and 3 different failures to appear, which are all misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Court's understanding is that you have what's called a adult probation hold on your file, such that regardless of the court's orders today, you're going to be held at least through today until those matters are resolved. So as to the warrant that you're picked up on for the city court charges, the court is going to set what's called a nominal bond in the amount of $100 cash or secured. Once everything else is lifted with the hold, if you post that bond, you may be able to be released at that time. The court is going to appoint you counsel because the court is holding you on these matters, and that's going to be Janet Altschuler, will be appointed as your counsel. The court will affirm prior release conditions are affirmed. Next court date in this matter is actually going to be a little bit later today for a case management conference, 1/23/25, and that's going to be at 12:00 p.m. at the Marana City Court, and you should be made available virtually for that matter. We next have a city court matter for some prior failures to appear from 2023 and 24, for failure to remain at an accident scene, assault, criminal trespass, and disorderly conduct. Again, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Similar to the other matters, since you are being held today on those 2 other matters, in order to secure your appearance, the court is going to set additional bond for the city court matters in the amount of $100 cash or secured. Court will affirm any prior release conditions in those cases at city court. Your next court date in city court is going to be on January 29, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. That will be with, looks like Judge Million. And so we've got a few court dates that we set for you today. We set a little bit of bond, recognize that there's also that hold. Any questions, sir, at this time?
Yeah, you could have another court appearance later on today for one of the courts that you assigned me.
That's
That
right.
one. So, all right, that's what it is.
Yeah, so
That's
that's
Jason.
the case management conference at Marana City Court, which will be made available for a little bit later today. You've got the city court matter on the 29th that you'll be, and then additionally, probation will probably be conferring with you about any additional matters with them, okay? Yeah.
Your Honor, is there any chance that the court hearing today could be continued or moved perhaps to tomorrow or at some point next week? We have some concerns about the medical treatment here in the jail being scheduled, and if he's out of the pod at noon, he's concerned that he may not get access to the medical treatment that he's supposed to be provided.
Since I have to stay here.
Okay, instead of the today. It looks
Yeah,
like
right.
we could reschedule it for Monday, the 27th at
That's
12
fine.
o'clock. Would that be fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So let me change that here. So the court will then amend its order then, January 27, 2025, 12 o'clock PM for case management conference with Marana City Court. And then I think that, anything else at this time?
That should be it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Sure thing. Okay, thank you, Mr. Reese. You're excused.
Davis.
Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Jamie Davis.
Ms. Davis, you're being seen here today on a couple of matters. We'll take them one at a time. Just give me one moment. Okay, so right now, Ms. Davis, you're being seen today for an initial appearance. And this is for one new charge of drug paraphernalia possession, as well as a prior failure to appear for drug paraphernalia for the Tucson City Court. These are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Court observes that you have what's called an adult probation hold on your file, which means that regardless of the court's inclination today to have you released or anything of that nature, the court will need to have you remain in custody until that's resolved. The court also does want to make sure that you are going to appear at your future proceedings. And so for those reasons, the court is setting bond in the amount of $100 cash or secured. Court is going to order as condition of release not to consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. The court is going to order consolidating this matter, city court matter, with the prior TR number with City Court 24026623. And there's a hearing, I believe, that's set in that matter on 2/27 at 9:30. That's going to be vacated. Your next court date as to all these pending matters with the City Court, January 31st, 2025, 1:45 PM with Judge Maldonado, and that'll be for video review. Any questions, ma'am, at this time?
Sir.
No questions at this time? Okay.
No, Your Honor, I think we're all set.
Okay, thank you. Then you're excused, ma'am.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Nicholas Mers.
Mr. Mers, you're here today. We were a little bit, to be honest, we were a little bit confused as to why you were here again. I think you had the matters on this already. Nonetheless, what we currently have is a pending charge for disorderly conduct from November of 2024. As to this matter, which I believe has not yet been resolved, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So in looking at the case file, it appeared that you had some sort of case or you had an initial appearance in November. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. And so then I'm not sure exactly why you were brought back in. What the court, yes.
Go ahead, sorry.
In general, you do have a right to remain silent. So if it's anything that tends to incriminate you, you don't have to speak up on it. But I'm just going to let you know, based on what I'm seeing right now, not seeing any new charges, the court is going to order that you be released on your promise to appear at future court dates. We're just going to set you up with a new court date and then make sure you appear at that date. But if you don't appear, you could be picked up on a warrant, okay? The court is going to order as a precautionary condition of release on today's date, though, do not commit any acts of domestic violence. The court is going to order that your next court date is February 28th, 2025, 9:00 a.m. And that's going to be at the Tucson City Court. Do make sure that you appear again. A warrant could be issued if you don't. Do you have any questions at this time?
No.
Then you're excused, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here.
Let's take this. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Sanchez.
Ms. Sanchez is being seen today on a couple of misdemeanor matters for criminal damage and disorderly conduct. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of the documentation before the court is going to order that you be released on today's date with some conditions of release. Court is going to order that you not commit any acts of domestic violence, that you not have any contact with the individual Armando Jimenez except as permitted by family court order. Court is going to order setting your next court date in this matter, February 18, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the city court, and that's going to be with Judge Sergio. Failure to appear at future hearings could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. So make sure you appear at that hearing on February 18. Do you have any questions at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Then you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you. You got it.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Hi, Christian Uriarte.
Ms. Uriarte, you're here today. You're here today for two pending charges of disorderly conduct and assault. These are misdemeanor offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Just so you know, you do have some family members present, including the victim in this matter, I believe. Did anyone the victim wish to make a statement today, ma'am? Okay. And so the court has reviewed the complaint and the probable cause statement before the court at this, and also considering input of the victim as stated to pretrial services, which was that the victim does object to your release and does not want to have further contact. So in light of all this information, the court is going to order that you be held at this time on a bond of $1,000 cash or secured. You're not to possess any alcohol or illegal drugs, not to possess any firearms or weapons, no contact with the individual Alma Uriarte. You're not to go to the victim's residence or workplace. You may return one time with a law enforcement official to pick up your belongings. Court is going to appoint the the Tucson Public Defender's Office to represent you, the City Public Defender's Office, to represent you in this matter. Your next court date is January 29, 2025, 1:30 p.m. for video review. Make sure that you go to future hearings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued. Any questions at this time?
So am I being held? Okay.
Being held, bond is $1,000, cash is secured. If you post that bond, you do make sure that you go back to your city court case. If you didn't appear, if you're still incarcerated, you'll be transported for the hearing. If you're out of custody, you need to make sure that you appear, otherwise a warrant could issue, then you're right back in the same spot, okay? All right, thank you very much. You're excused. Good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Chelsea Van Sickle.
Ms. Van Sickle, you're here today on a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. In review of the complaint and probable cause statement before the court is ordering that you be released on your promise to appear at future proceedings. You do have the condition of release not to commit any acts of domestic violence. And the court has, I'll just indicate for the record, also has considered pretrial services input, which the victim does not object to your release. Court will set the next court date in this matter as a out of custody arraignment, February 18, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And that'll be at the Tucson City Court. Make sure that you appear at that in future hearings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Do you have any questions?
Sure.
Do you have any questions at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Then you're all set. You can be excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
David Kiki Morales.
Mr. Morales, you're here today on a felony charge of aggravated DUI. It's a class 4 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is provisional counsel seated next to you to assist you. The state in this matter is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $15,000 plus release to pretrial services if bond is posted. And any additional record, Mr. Poston.
State would just call to the court, call the defendants extremely poor performance on the SFSTs, his admissions, multiple DUI suspensions for drugs, amongst other, as well as his substantial misdemeanor in felony record, Your Honor. He's pending a DUI. He caught another DUI. This person is a risk to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Coltrane.
Yes, Your Honor. On the note of the priors, I will kind of point out to the court that these are fairly old. The last felony conviction was in 2015, so we're talking almost a decade ago. I understand that there is, the court's inclination is likely to hold Mr. Morales. I would point out, though, that for aggravated DUIs, it is the Pima County Attorney's Office policy to dismiss these cases prior to indictment. If the blood results have not been obtained, I suspect that is what is going to happen here. So if you do hold Mr. Morales on a bond, it's not going to be for the safety of the community or anything like that. It'll be for approximately 8 days before the county attorney's office dismisses his case and reindicts him at a later date once the blood results have been obtained. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I don't believe that the bond sought by the county attorney's office is appropriate here. I'd ask that you release Mr. Morales to pretrial services while his case is pending. If the case is dismissed and reindicted at a later date, it'd likely come in on a direct indictment for which he would be, essentially released on his own recognizance on his promise to appear at future court dates. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I'd ask that the court not beat around the bush and release him to pretrial services. Thank you.
Judge?
Go ahead, Mr. Poston.
I would mention that there has already been a chemical test that revealed a presumptive positive for methamphetamine. So I don't think it's going to go the dismissal route.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for their input. At this time, the court is going to institute bond in the amount of $5,000 cash or secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. As conditions of release, the court is going to order that the defendant cannot drive without a valid license, and further that the defendant may not operate a motor vehicle until further court order. Additionally, that the defendant cannot use alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Court is appointing the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent the defendant. Next hearing, preliminary hearing for the defendant, February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. That'll be at the Pima County Justice Court. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the city court matters that we have at this time. And that'll be essentially for what we've alluded to earlier today, which was prior failure to appear on a pending misdemeanor DUI charge and drug paraphernalia. As to the misdemeanor charges, again, Mr. Morales does have a right to remain silent. Anything he says can will be used against him. And to ensure the defendant's appearance at these proceedings, court is going to institute bond in the amount of $500 cash or secured. We'll appoint the city public defender's office to represent the defendant. Court will order as additional conditions of release not to drive without a valid license and not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal beverages. Court is setting a video review in this matter on January 31st, 2025, 1:45 p.m. And that will be with Judge Farena at the city court. So, Mr. Morales, a couple court dates for you. Make sure that you appear at future court dates. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued. And any questions before we conclude?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Your excuse, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I checked it, but yeah, you can't. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Leona
Ms. Evans, you're here today on a felony charge of theft. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is provisional counsel seated next to you. The state is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $5,000 plus release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Mr. Poston, any additional records?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Coltrud?
If I could have a moment, Your Honor.
That's fine.
And the husband's out there too, like he's the one that work.
I understand.
I'm trying to explain to you what the situation.
Your Honor,
Counsel, you're gonna want to mute.
Your Honor is a mother. We're asking that you release her to pretrial services. We're not looking at any prior convictions at the felony level, no prior violent felonies. And the thing that I would like to note here, Your Honor, is that what is alleged is essentially an attempted theft of means rather than a completed theft, as is listed on the complaint in terms of the charge, because it seems as though the vehicle that the state is alleging was attempted to be taken was in fact recovered. And based on the way that the complaint is written, it doesn't seem as though this was a completed offense. And so for these reasons, Your Honor, I ask that you give Ms. Nevins the opportunity to participate in her case with her attorney on the outs rather than here in jail, so that she can maintain her home with her family and her children. So for these reasons, I'd ask you release her to pretrial services.
Well, so this week we've done a lot of these different types of theft cases. I think on the spectrum of severity of the cases the court has seen, at least just this week alone, I think this kind of falls on the lighter side of things. And the court also believes that if we have some strict prohibitions within the conditions of release, I think that would probably reduce the risk of recidivism in this matter. I don't see any violent aspect to this. So in light of that, what the court's going to do is court's going to order that the defendants released to these third-party supervision of pretrial services. Ms. Nevins, imperative that you follow any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. That is a common pitfall for defendants in these cases. They fail to check in, they fail to abide by treatment recommendations, and then we have warrants being issued for failure to appear at hearings, for failure to comply. So it is an order of the court. Make sure you follow the monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Also ordered not to go back to the incident location. The Pima County Legal Defender's Office is appointed to represent the defendant. Preliminary hearing is set on February 12th, 2025, and that'll be at 1:30 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. Ms. Nevins, make sure that you appear at all future hearings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Any questions at this time?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, and you are excused.
What's it?
Morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Angel Alvarez.
Mr. Alvarez, you're here today on felony charges and narcotic drug for sale and possession of dangerous drugs for sale. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There was counsel seated next to you to assist you on today's date. The state is recommending bond be set in the amount of $5,000 plus release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Any additional record, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Colstrud?
Yes, Your Honor, we're asking that you release Mr. Alvarez to pretrial services supervision. He's got one prior, and it's for apparently a class 6, a non-dangerous, a non-violent offense, not anything drug-related here. He's a young man, he is married, and he has a home to go to with a valid address and transportation to and from his court hearing. So I would ask that you give Mr. Alvarez the opportunity here to participate in this case and remain in his home while he defends himself with the assistance of counsel, rather than remain here in the jail where it seems as though he's had some difficulties as it pertains to his health. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I'd ask that you release Mr. Alvarez to pretrial services. Their supervision is more than sufficient to ensure that he participate in his case. Obviously, he's got a home here in town, so I don't think that there's a flight risk here. I can understand perhaps, if the court is concerned about the safety for the community. I will note that the individual quantities of the drugs alleged here were fairly small in the grand scheme of things compared to some of the cases we see. And so I'd hope that the court takes that in consideration and releases him to the supervision of pretrial services.
Okay, thank you. At this time, court is going to institute bond in the amount of $2,500 cash is secured with the release of pretrial services. If bond is posted, I think that there is a danger to the community identified based upon the variety and relative quantity of the items, including the indication that there was a scale and a ledger that indicated sales. So I think there's intent here to sell, and that needs to be deterred here with institution of bond. But the court is going to lower the bond. It's a lower amount than what the court usually does for sales in light of the lower amounts. Court will order as conditions of release: no alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Counsel has appointed the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Next court hearing is going to be preliminary hearing February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. At the Pima County Justice Court. Mr. Alvarez, make sure you appear at future hearings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Any questions before we conclude?
So I gotta pay the bond in order to get out? Or what?
Correct. So if bond is posted, it's a $2,500 cash or secured bond. If bond is posted, you would be released, and then you have some conditions of release to abide by. And also you need to make sure you check in with pretrial services as well. Those are all requirements as well.
And then where would I find pretrial services?
So it's this one. So if you bond that list.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you, Judge.
How do I figure out how to get charged?
Just one moment, sir. We'll get started with your initial appearance. Okay, I just changed the judge. I didn't have the judge wrong. Okay. Okay, good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Oscar Guillermo Angulo, Hakari.
Okay, Mr. Angulo Hakari, we have you here today on, let me pull up your file here. All right, so we've got you here today on a charge of wrong file here. Sorry. Possession of narcotic drugs for sale. This is a felony offense. Transport narcotic drug for sale. This is a felony offense. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you to assist you. The court does note, just as from the onset, that there is an adult probation hold on you. So regardless of what the outcome is for today, you'll be remaining incarcerated until that probation hold is lifted. Nonetheless, the state is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $30,000 plus a release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
Your Honor, state just needs to emphasize that we're looking at 9.54 pounds of M30s, upwards of 43,000 pills. These pills are killing people, Your Honor. 30,000.
And Mr. Coltrane?
If I could have a moment, Your Honor. My apologies, Your Honor. Given the probation hold here, and I don't have any information as to the nature of that hold or anything on that. Pretrial services did not include that hold on their workup in Oscar's case here. So given that, I would ask for a nominal bond. I understand, the danger that these pills present as alleged by the state. It's very clear from the complaints that Mr. Angulo Hakari here is not engaged in the sale, the use, or anything beyond literally having these drugs allegedly in his possession. It's very clear too that he is someone who is employed here in town. He's got a home to return to. He's got a family here in town. And so I suspect that he will be quite motivated to get this probation hold cleared up and return to his family. So given the circumstances here and his cooperation with law enforcement, the lack of any priors related to anything to drugs or sale or anything of that note, I would ask, Your Honor, that you hold him on a nominal bond given the probation hold that he currently faces. Thank you.
Just one moment. I'm just going to look at something on the pretrial services workup, and then I'll make a ruling. Okay. At this time, the court is going to institute bond in the amount of $20,000 cash or secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. It's a staggering amount of pills. I know the circumstances if you're unclear, but that's at least $200,000 in product. It's just the court, there's a danger to the community. So conditions of release are no alcohol or illegal drugs, monitoring or treatment is directed by pretrial services. Additionally, the defendant shall contact his probation officer on the first business day following release as an additional condition of release. Counsel is appointed the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Preliminary hearing, February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Justice Court. And that should cover it for now. Sir, any questions before we conclude?
At this point, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then, sir, you are excused. I think I did. Yep. Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Early Cates.
Mr. Cates, you're here today on a charge of, let me get the right file here. Excuse me one moment. Okay, so we have you on a charge of possession of dangerous drugs, which is a class 4 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you to assist you. The state is recommending, however, that you be released to the third-party supervision of pretrial services, and also that what's called a smart court hearing be set for you. Is that still the state's recommendation, Mr. Poston?
It is.
Mr. Cates, you're free to talk to to Mr. Colford sitting next to you about this, but smart court is basically a diversion type program at the Superior Court, which allows you to comply with certain requirements, and then these charges may be dropped without being formally charged against you. Do you want to avail yourself of that program?
Yes, please.
Okay. And so then, does the defense waive time as to setting the preliminary hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So then, in that case, then the court will go ahead and order as follows. Court will order releasing the defendant to the third-party supervision of pretrial services. Additional conditions of release, however, are no alcohol or illegal drugs, and follow monitoring and treatment as directed by pretrial services. Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed. The smart court hearing is set on January 30th, 2025 at 9:00 a.m. at Superior Court. And then the preliminary hearing is going to be set out to March 10th, 2025, March 10, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And that'll be, okay, any questions, sir, at this time? Okay, you're excused. Thank you.
Good morning.
All right, morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Good morning. Connor Cleveland.
Mr. Cleveland, you're here today on a charge of burglary in the 3rd degree. This is a class 4 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is counsel seated next to you to assist you. State is recommending bond be set in the amount of $1,500 plus release to pretrial services. Any additional record, Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, that should have been 2,500. I apologize.
Okay, so amending then the recommendation $2,500.
Yes.
Any additional record?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Coltrane?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to ask at this point to release Mr. Cleveland to pretrial services supervision here. He's got one prior that was designated as a misdemeanor. So we're not talking somebody with any felony history. He's a young man. He lives here in town. He's employed. And so those are all reasons to show that he's not a flight risk, that he is somebody who can and will participate in his case if he is to be released. I will note that this is not a violent crime. What's been charged is burglary in the 3rd degree, not theft. And it's important to note that the amount that was actually alleged in the complaint is $4,300 worth of items. It's not clear what items. Apparently, there's another suspect who is not being indicted here today. So it's not even really clear what the state is alleging Mr. Cleveland's involvement was. And so, you know, $2,500 is more than 50% of what the items, the value of the items that they're claiming was taken. And he's not even charged with that. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I think pretrial supervision is more than sufficient to ensure that Mr. Cleveland is showing up to his court dates, staying here in town, and staying out of trouble. Thank you.
Well, I think as the court previously observed earlier today, I think in looking at these various theft cases, it is encouraging in this one that there isn't any instance of violent activity. No firearms located, nothing to suggest that there's an extra element of danger. I think that it sounds like there was certainly some violation of trust here if there were keys used, which were previously had for prior tenancy. All in all, Mr. Cleveland, the court's going to give you a shot here, and the court's going to order releasing you to pretrial services. Please make sure that you follow all requirements. It's likely that if there's a conviction in this case or a plea, you're going to probably be doing some restitution anyways to the victim, but of course going to give you an opportunity here to try to make right on this without being further incarcerated. However, you do have some conditions of release. If you violate these conditions, that could cause you to be reincarcerated. Follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. No contact with the alleged victims in this matter, and don't go to the incident location in this matter as well. Counsel is appointed to the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Next hearing is going to be a preliminary hearing, and that is on February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. And make sure that you appear at future hearings. Also, Mr. Cleveland, failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Any questions before we conclude?
I don't think we have any questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Fardo.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Nancy Fajardo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So, Miss, I show you as Nancy Fardo-Alcarez. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it looks like we have you here today on that you're picked up on a warrant issued from pending charges in 2020. Now would be for aggravated DUI, 2 different counts. State is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $2,500, consistent with the warrant amount. Mr. Poston, any additional record?
No, Judge.
And I forgot to mention earlier, Ms. Fardo-Alcarez, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you to assist you. And then also then, Mr. Colesford, any recommendation or on behalf of the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple things. One, I don't have a complaint in this case, so I can't really meaningfully address the allegations here against Ms. Fajardo. I will note that she is employed full-time. She has stable employment. She has a home to return to. She has transportation to and from her court dates. It looks as though these are some pretty old DUI charges, and it looks as though it was dismissed in 2020 and then refiled in 2021. And so it was some time ago. It's clear that Ms. Fajardo at the time of her arrest was not, truthfully aware that the charges have been refiled. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I'd ask that you give her the opportunity on pretrial services release to defend her case and continue to work, maintain stable employment, return to her home, and continue living her life while she defends these charges. I'll note, too, Your Honor, what we're talking about is a DUI charge. And, we're not talking about a violent crime. We're not talking about anyone here being injured, according to what pretrial services has noted. So for these reasons, I think that the community would be quite safe, Your Honor, if she is released, given that she's been out for the last 5 years, or 4.5 years since the incident date, without any further issues. So for these reasons, I'd ask you to release her pretrial services.
Okay, thank you. So what the court will do is, when these situations arise where we have, at least my perspective is where we have the charges dismissed and then indicted, and then there's notice sent, and then folks fail to appear, there can be some confusion with that. I think it differs from a circumstance where somebody goes to an initial appearance, is released, and then fails to appear at the court hearing that they are very directly notified of. So I do also note, though, however, I think it's worth noting that there is a prior extreme DUI on the defendant's history sheet. And this is sort of a second DUI offense. So I'm concerned about that. So instead of releasing on promise to appear, I'm going to release to third-party supervision of pretrial services, and there will be some additional conditions of release. Not to drive without a valid license, no alcohol or illegal drugs, and follow any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. Furthermore, the court's going to order that the defendant is not permitted to operate a motor vehicle until further court order. Counsel is going to be appointed to the Pima County Legal Defender's Office. And next court date, Ms. Fardo-Alcarez is going to be in arraignment at Superior Court, January 30, 2025, 1:30 p.m. So this is an opportunity for you to appear at your next court date. If you don't appear again, a warrant could be issued again, and then we could start seeing bonds set maybe in the 5 digits this time. And then it's just going to go up from there. So please make sure that you appear. A warrant can be issued if you don't appear. Any questions at this time? Okay, you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Morning, sir. Give me one moment, please. We're just trying to figure out something else. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to white out the other date. No, it's Crenshaw. So I'm going to white out that date. For the February 20. Oh, she's being held. A video review. Yeah. Okay. on this one. Sorry, sir, just one moment. We're just correcting something that came up on another case real quick. Be with you in just a moment. Yeah. So we may need to bring her back to let her know. Okay. To the jail, while we're getting through the rest of the felonies, can we make arrangements to have Ms. Uriarte brought back in? We need to just notify her of an updated court date. If we could just do that, we can do that after the felonies, if that's okay.
That's fine, Your Honor.
I'm gonna hold on to her file then. Okay. All right, sorry, sir. Can you go ahead and state your first and last name?
Christopher Horton.
All right. So, Mr. Horton, we've got you here today for an initial appearance as to unlawful use of means of transportation, which is a class 5 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you. In this matter, the state is recommending bond be set in the amount of $2,500 plus release to pretrial services. And Mr. Poston, any additional record?
No, Judge.
And Mr. Coltrane.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm asking that at this time you release Mr. Horton to the supervision of pretrial services. What the state is alleging is not effective means. They're alleging an unlawful use of means. It seems as though Mr. Horton and the alleged victim in the case, they work together, they know each other. And what this was is somebody, as the state describes it, borrowing a car, not returning it by the time they were supposed to. This is not a violent crime. This is, frankly, a dispute between two people. And it seems as though the vehicle was recovered. There's no note of any damage or any diminution in the value of the vehicle. And so I ask that you give Mr. Horton the opportunity to participate in this case, to continue to live and work, rather than stay here in the jail frankly, a dispute about the use of a truck. And so, additionally, Your Honor, I will note that Mr. Horton, that one thing that the state has pointed out in the recommendation, has prior felony convictions. That's not true. He has one. And though there was an issue with his parole, he did serve his sentence, he did his time, and he has repaid his debt to society. So I'd ask that the court take into consideration the circumstances here, his prior history, the fact that this isn't a violent crime. It's clear that Mr. Horton lives and works here in town and should not have any issues showing up to court. I don't believe that he's a flight risk given what we have here. So for these reasons, I ask that you release him to the supervision of pretrial services for the duration of this case. Thank you.
Given the nature of the information before the court and the alleged conduct, the court will order releasing the defendant to the third-party supervision of pretrial services with some conditions of release, follow monitoring and treatment as directed by pretrial services, no contact with the alleged victim, do not go to the victim's residence or workplace. Additionally, we have that the Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed. Preliminary hearing is set February 12, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. Mr. Horton, failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest if you fail to appear at future hearings. Make sure you go to future hearings. Court's going to give you an opportunity here not to engage in any further criminal activity. So please take advantage of this opportunity. Do make sure to check in with pretrial services as well. We see a lot of defendants fail to do that, and then it causes violations. So any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, you're excused. Thank you, sir. Correct, yeah. Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Milagros Martell.
Okay, so Ms. Martell, you're here today on a couple of matters. We first have one's in the city court, one's here at justice court. So we're going to take them one at a time. First matter is aggravated assault on a police officer, which is a class 5 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. There is counsel seated next to you to assist you. State is recommending that bond be set in the amount of $1,500 with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Any additional record, Mr. Poston?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr.
Your Honor, I would ask at this time to release Ms. Milagro to the supervision of pretrial services. She's got a home that was verified with her son. She lives here in town. She's lived here in Tucson for a significant period of time. She's not a flight risk. And, you know, one thing I would note is with the allegations here is that there's no prior felony convictions. And, you know, the circumstances alleged here are, you know, as the state describes them, what we're seeing is, I think, someone experiencing a mental health crisis rather than true, you know, criminal intent. And I will note that under, you know, the way that this is described is an aggravated assault on a peace officer. The other way to describe it is an aggravated assault on somebody directed by a healthcare worker, because it seems as though the individual allegedly assaulted here was off duty and working at a hospital where Ms. Milagro had been checked in at. And so under those circumstances, you know, if you know, described as somebody directed by the by a healthcare professional, there is an exception under the statute for somebody experiencing, you know, a mental health crisis, for lack of a better term, who doesn't have the requisite mens rea to, you know, have committed the an intentional assault on somebody directed by a healthcare worker. So that's another way to look at this case, Your Honor. I would encourage the court to examine it through this lens of somebody who is in the hospital for a specific reason, and you know, obviously not having their best day, to put it lightly, and being in this situation. So for these circumstances, the lack of history, the home that she has to return to, the lack of any sort of flight risk here, I would ask that you release Ms. Milagro to the supervision of pretrial services so she can continue with whatever treatment is necessary and defend her case from her home where she's resided for what appears to be at least 15 years, if not more. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the state is going to adopt the state's recommendation. Bond is set in the amount of $1,500. Cash is secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Conditions of release: no alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms or weapons, monitoring or treatment is directed by pretrial services. Further, not to go back to the incident location unless in case of an emergency. Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed. Preliminary hearing set February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. Failure to appear at future hearings could result in a warrant being issued, so please go to future hearings, Ms. Martell. And then we're going to go ahead and proceed to your city court matter, which is essentially charges arising from the same incident, but different charges. You're also being charged with assault and disorderly conduct arising from this incident. Ms. Martell, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Because you're being held in the other matter, in order to give you appropriate time credit, as if applicable, in the city matter, the court is going to hold you on a separate nominal bond of $50, cash or secured, for the city court matter, not to possess any alcohol or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and not to go to the incident location unless in case of emergency. The court will appoint the city public defender's office to represent you, and we will set your next court date, January 31st, 2025, 1:45 p.m. for video review at the city court. If you're still incarcerated at time of these hearings, you'll be made available and transported. If you do happen to bond out, then make sure you go to these hearings anyways. Failure to appear can result in a warrant being issued. We went through a lot of information. Any questions, Ms. Martell?
No.
You're excused. Thank you. Who's the co-defendant? Okay. And so we had to do Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying, but let me just go ahead and proceed on this and we'll see from there. Good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Moren.
Ms. Moren, we've got you here today on a few felony charges, tampering with physical evidence, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of a narcotic drug. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel. Counsel is seated next to you. Court does note, just as a preliminary issue, that there is, looks like there's a detainer, a federal detainer placed on you by the U.S. Marshal's office. So regardless of what the course otherwise would be inclined to do, the court is going to have you remain incarcerated as a result of these proceedings today. Nonetheless, we do have the state recommending that bond be set in the amount of $5,000 plus release to pretrial services. And then any additional record, Mr. Poston.
No, Your Honor.
And then Mr. Polstred.
Yes, Your Honor, I would ask that you impose a nominal bond in this case, given the federal detainer, which obviously takes precedence here. Ms. Moran is not going to be released here, and likely, if she has to deal with a federal case, is going to be incarcerated for a significant period of time awaiting that. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I think $5,000 is a bit steep given the circumstances. And so I would ask that the bond that you impose be something that she might at some point in the future afford while still giving her the back time while she's incarcerated on this case. So we're asking for a nominal bond in this case, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Court in this matter will set bond in the amount of $2,000 cash is secured with release to pretrial services if bond is posted. Additional conditions of release: no alcohol or illegal drugs, follow monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. And counsel will be appointed to the Pima County Public Defender's Office. Let me check on the court date. We need to set one moment, please. Okay, that's good. Okay, so next hearing in this matter then, Ms. Moran, is that we have what's called a preliminary hearing for you, February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. That'll be at the Pima County Justice Court. Make sure that you appear at all future hearings. Failure to appear could result in a warrant being issued for your arrest. Any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, then you're excused. Thank you, ma'am.
That's a separate issue. Just discuss.
So I can take all this. So
You're still getting the so this is yours.
Good morning, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Joseph Potter.
Mr. Potter, we've got you here today on a charge of theft, by means of transportation, which is a Class 3 felony. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel, and there is counsel seated next to you. In this matter, the state is recommending for this charge that you be held without bond. It appears that on or around January 9th, you were released on conditions on pretrial services to third-party supervision of pretrial services. And so, Mr. Poston, my understanding is that there is a pending felony charge, and then the defendant was already on release.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any additional record that you want to make as to the request?
No, Your Honor.
And then, Mr. Colstred, any additional record?
The only thing I would note, Your Honor, is that it was fairly recent that he had been released to pretrial services in this case.
I've been checking.
And he had been checking in with pretrial services and had been compliant. Obviously, he is innocent unless the state proves him guilty. I understand that the state is asking the court to hold him without bond on this case and set that no bond hold. I will say it's quite frequent that these no bond holds get set, and then they do not proceed to an actual no bond hearing. I suspect this might head that way, and so I would object and ask the court to proceed with setting a bond or discussing that here today.
Okay. Given the circumstances, I think the fact that this happened relatively recently from release actually, I think weighs against the defendant in this case. Court is going to adopt the state's recommendation. Defendant will be held without bond. No bond hearing is set January 28th, 2025, 2:30 p.m. at the Pima County Superior Court. Monitoring the additional conditions of release if bond is initially set and release is granted, monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services, and also that the defendant shall not go to the incident location. Pima County Public Defender's Office is appointed. Do we need to change that given that there's no bond hearing? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna accelerate the other defendant's hearing. Do we need to bring her back for that? Yeah. We'll just do that. Okay. Okay, so next hearing in this matter then is that no bond hearing 1/28/2025, 2:30. Preliminary hearing is also set February 3rd, 2025, 1:30 p.m. Sounds like, Mr. Potter, you were doing relatively well with the exception of any alleged conduct which may have occurred that gave rise to this offense, but keep doing the right thing to the extent that you have been. And that also includes going to your future court dates. Failure to appear at future court dates could result in a warrant being issued. And you'll be transported to the no bond hearing at Superior Court next week as well. Any questions before we conclude?
No questions for the court at this point.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
It's just for the purpose of this year.
Oh, you would have helped with this stuff. I turned in and he just help translate to the judge. Sorry.
Just give me.
Okay, good morning. Can you state your name, please?
Elba Louise Wayville, Your Honor, I need to advise you that emails were sent in as well as federal application funding applications were sent in with documentation over Title 42 on the address 41112 East Flower Street 2. Both of my lawyers, my defense attorney that I'm currently waiting to deal in court on the 29th to meet with. And over my housing situation, as well as his legal secretary and the entire office of the defense attorney, Tucson City Court secretary, as well as Tyler for Creek law firm up in Basin, Arizona. Everything was fully said, all documented. However, the people that did again scooped out those lives have past history with me and are insanely violent. I turned in and pointed out my electric company.
Ms. Weibel, I'm going to go ahead and stop you at this point. It sounds like you're talking about the incident offense we have. I have to let you know that we are facing 2 felony charges at this point. The criminal conduct with a weapon, burglary in the 2nd degree. These are felony offenses. You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say, Cannon will be used against you. You do have a right to assistance of counsel and counsel provisionally seated next to you. The state is recommending bond in the amount of $7,500, then release the pretrial services. The bond is posted. Mr. Poston, any,
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Colford, any additional record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Filing for that guilty of taking into trial. Because those assessments say it's no, that is one of them.
Okay, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is, if you would please just leave the line muted here on out, because this is disrupting the proceedings. So what the court is gonna, well, Mr. Colfred, if you can provide an additional record, that's fine. Let me just give you an opportunity to do that. And then, but if there's further discussion from the defendant that's disrupting the proceedings, I'm gonna have to abridge that. So go ahead, Mr. Colfred.
I understand, Your Honor. So there seems that, ma'am, you gotta let me speak. Okay, Your Honor, there seems to be some very serious issues with the, there seems to be some sort of history here that's not addressed in the complaint. I've got some serious concerns about that. I've also got concerns with the charges as they are alleged. So on a factual note, Your Honor, ma'am, you've got to let me speak, okay? Please. Okay, I'm gonna mute.
Okay.
Your Honor, what the state is alleging is that she committed disorderly conduct with a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument. And based on what the state is alleged here, I don't think that they can meet that element just as an issue of probable cause. What they're claiming this dangerous instrument to be is a butter knife taped to like some sort of metal rod. It doesn't say a sharpened butter knife. I don't know. I can
Back together my cart and vacate.
I can't imagine a situation in which a butter knife could be threatened in a way that it is readily capable of causing serious physical injury. So I don't believe that there is probable cause for disorderly conduct charge in this case. And as for the burglary, Your Honor, ma'am, okay. As for the burglary, Your Honor, burglary is the, is entering into a building with the intent to commit a theft or another felony therein. I'm not certain, based on the complaint here, what the other felony was, because the disorderly conduct, based on the way it's been alleged here in the complaint, seems to have occurred out of the unit itself, based on where everybody was standing in the complaint and how it's described. So for these reasons, Your Honor, I would ask that please stop. So for these reasons.
Okay. At this time, the court is going to order continuing today's initial appearance to the afternoon session. I'm not confident that the defendant is cognizant of the current proceedings, and the disruption of the proceedings is impairing the court from making a ruling on the matter. So this order continuing the initial appearance to this evening as well. And thank you, ma'am. You are excused at this time. I think we just have to bring back Miss Uriarte. So and then to the jail. That's it for our regular, but we just have to bring back Miss Uriarte for the notification of the court date. Is she in the back by chance? Yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah, I think the line's muted now. Yeah, what's there? Is she coming in soon?
Yes, Your Honor, taking Weibel back. They should be bringing her shortly.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank everybody for your help today.
Nancy?
It was Christian earlier there, please. Oh, yeah, yeah. Scott. Uriarte. Uriarte.
So,
Hi, welcome back, Mr. Uriarte. We just wanted to make sure that you were aware of an updated court date. It looks like I had filled in, I made an error with filling in your court date. So I just want to make sure you get actual notice of that date. It's January 31st, 2025 at 1:45 PM at the city court with Judge Cranshaw. The paperwork we had filled out it said something different. So do you have any questions about that court date?
So, Your Honor, that was January 31st.
Correct, 31st, 1:45 PM. And that's what Judge Cranshaw, I think we had indicated a different judge and a different date.
but everything else is still.
Everything else,
But everything else,
correct, everything
Okay.
else is still the same. Okay,
okay.
thanks, Mr. Uriarte. Have a good day.